Once again, I'm Cristyn Steward. I'm the founder of the Columbus Black International Film Festival. And this is Chris, pronounce your last name? Bournea, Lady Wrestler. So why Lady Wrestler?
So this story came about because of Shelly Adams, who you saw, Ethel Johnson's daughter. I actually found out after the movie had been completed, that she had been trying for years to get her mother's story out there. And Shelly happened to know a man named Terry Anderson, who works in public relations. He used to work at the Greater Columbus Arts Council when I was a full-time reporter at This Week News and also the Call and Post, which I still freelance for both of those papers, believe it or not. So whenever I would call Terry for story ideas, he would tell me, he would say, Chris, there's this really interesting lady that I grew up with that you should sit down and interview sometime. And that turned out to be Ethel Johnson. So that was back in the end of 2005. So we did this interview, and she just had these amazing stories of going all over the world. You know, they talked about in the documentary, Japan, Australia, Latin America, and then when they traveled in the South, they had to deal with all this Jim Crow segregation. So I wrote a story that was published in the Dispatch in March of 2006. It came out, you know, at the start of Women's History Month, and it came out, just happened to be published the first weekend of the Arnold Classic. So Arnold Schwarzenegger's people actually called me at the newspaper and were like, we never knew these women existed. We want to give Ethel Johnson a Lifetime Achievement Award. So by that time, she was a retired grandmother, did not like the spotlight, and she said, well, tell them I said thanks, but no thanks. And I just felt her story was just too grand to just be limited to one newspaper article. And in my research, I found out there were dozens of other women like her. So there was a documentary that had come out around the same time called Lipstick and Dynamite that covered women's wrestling from the same era, but they only featured white women, and they only briefly mentioned black women. It was this very passing reference. So I thought, these women, you know, if anyone deserves their own movie, it's these women. So it was a story that I always say, it didn't take Orson Welles to see that the story was cinematic. And I'm not a trained filmmaker. My degree is in English, but I just thought, I'll just jump in, and to my surprise and my delight, when I asked Ethel if she would be willing to talk on camera, she said yes.